Nina Clark had just graduated from college with a degree in criminology. Eager to gain real-world experience, she accepted a job as a night security guard at the old Hartfield manufacturing plant. The plant had been closed for years, its machinery rusting, and its once bustling floors now silent and eerie. Despite its unsettling reputation and the odd stories she had heard about it, Nina was determined to prove herself. On her first night, Nina arrived at the plant just as the sun was setting, casting long shadows over the dilapidated building. The plant was a sprawling complex, with its towering smokestacks and broken windows making it look like a relic of a bygone era. The security office was a small, dusty room filled with old monitors and surveillance equipment that seemed barely functional. The plant had been a cornerstone of the local economy before it was shut down due to financial troubles and safety violations. Since then, it had become a haven for urban explorers, and according to local legends, a site of paranormal activity. Nina brushed off the stories as nothing more than myths and superstitions, focusing on the tasks at hand. Her shift began with a thorough inspection of the security system and a review of the protocols. As the night deepened, the plant fell into a deep, unnatural silence. Nina's footsteps echoed through the empty hallways as she began her rounds. The vast cavernous spaces were filled with the faint creaks of shifting metal and the distant hum of machinery that seemed to have a life of its own. The plant's darkness was oppressive, the only light coming from the dim glow of her flashlight. Nina's first few hours passed uneventfully, with only the occasional flicker of a light bulb or a sudden gust of wind to break the monotony. She began to feel more at ease, convinced that the stories of hauntings were just that, stories. But as the clock struck midnight, a sense of unease began to settle over her. As the clock approached 1 a.m., Nina noticed that some of the surveillance monitors flickered intermittently, displaying static or brief flashes of distorted images. She attributed it to old equipment and tried to focus on her patrol. However, the strange occurrences continued. She heard soft, almost imperceptible whispers and footsteps echoing through the empty plant. The hairs on the back of her neck stood up, and a shiver ran down her spine. During her rounds, Nina came across a room that was not on her patrol route. The door was ajar, and she could see a faint light emanating from within. Curious, she approached and peeked inside. The room was filled with old office furniture, files scattered across the floor, and a large, dusty desk in the center. On the desk was an old photograph of a group of workers, their faces obscured by age and grime. As she examined the photo, Nina felt a sudden drop in temperature. The air grew cold, and the whispers she had heard earlier seemed to grow louder, becoming more distinct and urgent. She quickly backed away from the room, closing the door behind her and resuming her patrol. The sense of being watched grew stronger, and Nina could not shake the feeling that something was following her. The surveillance monitors continued to malfunction, and strange shadows appeared on the screens, moving erratically as if they had a mind of their own. Nina's flashlight began to flicker, and she found herself drawn to the old factory floor, where the machinery lay silent and still. Around 2 a.m., while exploring the factory floor, Nina stumbled upon a door that was partially hidden behind a stack of crates. The door was old and weathered, and the handle was cold to the touch. Despite her growing apprehension, Nina decided to investigate further. She used a crowbar she found in a nearby storage closet to pry open the door. The room beyond was a small, hidden chamber, its walls lined with strange markings and symbols. The air inside was stale and musty, and the floor was covered in a thick layer of dust. On a table in the center of the room lay an old ledger, its pages yellowed and brittle. Nina carefully opened the ledger, revealing handwritten notes and drawings that seemed to describe some sort of ritual or experiment. The entries in the ledger spoke of a secret project conducted by the plant's management, a project involving mysterious experiments and occult practices. The writings hinted at an attempt to harness some sort of supernatural power, with disastrous consequences. Nina's heart raced as she read about the experiments that had been conducted in the hidden room. The ledger mentioned the summoning of entities and the binding of spirits, suggesting that something had gone terribly wrong. As she examined the ledger, the temperature in the room dropped even further, and an oppressive presence seemed to fill the space. Nina heard a loud, echoing bang from somewhere in the plant, followed by the sound of heavy footsteps approaching the hidden room. She quickly closed the ledger and prepared to leave, but the door behind her slammed shut, trapping her inside. Panic set in as Nina tried to open the door, but it remained firmly shut. Whispers grew louder, and the shadows in the room seemed to shift and writhe. She could feel an unseen force closing in on her, and the air was thick with a sense of malevolent intent. The lights in the hidden room flickered erratically, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Suddenly, the temperature in the room plummeted, and Nina saw her breath in the freezing air. The whispers turned into a cacophony of voices, each one speaking in a language she couldn't understand. The symbols on the walls began to glow faintly, and a dark, shadowy figure emerged from the corner of the room. Its form was indistinct, shifting and morphing as if it were made of darkness itself. Nina's flashlight flickered and died, plunging her into darkness. The shadowy figure moved closer, and Nina could feel its cold presence pressing against her. Desperate, she searched the room for anything that might help her escape. Her hand brushed against the old ledger, and she remembered the rituals described within it. She recalled that the ledger mentioned a way to appease the entities and break their hold by performing a specific incantation. With trembling hands, she retrieved the ledger and began to recite the incantation from memory, hoping that it would be enough to drive the entity away. As Nina recited the incantation, the entity seemed to recoil, its form flickering and distorting. The whispers grew frantic, and the oppressive presence in the room began to waver. Nina continued to speak the words, her voice growing stronger with each repetition. The temperature in the room began to stabilize, and the shadows on the walls retreated. The door suddenly creaked open, and Nina seized the opportunity to escape. She fled from the hidden room, her heart pounding and her breath coming in ragged gasps. The factory floor was now eerily quiet, and the oppressive atmosphere had lifted slightly. Nina navigated the dark hallways, guided by the faint light of her flashlight. She made her way back to the security office, where she hoped to find some solace and safety. Her mind raced with the events of the night, and she struggled to make sense of what she had experienced. As she reached the security office, she noticed that the surveillance monitors were once again functioning properly. The static and flickering had ceased, and the cameras showed a clear view of the plant's interior. Nina checked the footage from the night, hoping to find evidence of the supernatural occurrences she had encountered. To her shock, the footage showed nothing unusual. No shadows, no figures, and no evidence of the entities she had seen. The camera feeds appeared normal, as if nothing had happened. Nina felt a chill run down her spine, realizing that the entity might have erased all evidence of its presence. As dawn approached, Nina's shift came to an end. She was exhausted and shaken, her mind still reeling from the night's events. She reported the incidents to her supervisor, but he dismissed her concerns, attributing them to stress and overwork. The plant's management had always been known for ignoring any claims of supernatural activity, preferring to keep the plant's dark past hidden. Nina decided to investigate further on her own time. She delved into the plant's history, uncovering more about the experiments and rituals that had been conducted in the hidden room. She found records of missing workers and unexplained incidents, all linked to the dark activities described in the ledger. Determined to understand what had happened, Nina reached out to local historians and paranormal experts. They confirmed that the plant had a notorious reputation for supernatural activity, and the rituals described in the ledger were consistent with accounts of occult practices. Nina's experience at Hartfield Manufacturing Plant became a powerful reminder of the dangers that lurked in places with dark histories. She continued to share her story, hoping to shed light on the plant's past and help others avoid similar experiences. The plant remained abandoned, its secrets buried in the shadows. The haunting of Hartfield Manufacturing Plant served as a chilling reminder of the consequences of tampering with forces beyond human understanding. For Nina, the midnight shift at the old plant was a night she would never forget, a night that revealed the darkness lurking beneath the surface and the enduring power of the unknown. Jessica Miller had always been drawn to the thrill of the unknown. When she landed a job as a night auditor for the Whispering Pines Hotel, she thought it would be a perfect opportunity to combine her love for adventure with a stable career. The Whispering Pines Hotel was an old historic building nestled deep in the heart of a dense forest, known for its classic architecture and its eerie reputation. It had been a luxury destination in the 1920s, but after a series of unexplained incidents, it had fallen into disrepair. Jessica arrived at the hotel just as twilight settled over the forest. The hotel loomed before her, its Victorian facade shadowed by the encroaching night. The lobby was dimly lit with antique furniture and old photographs lining the walls. The air inside was thick with dust and a musty odor that spoke of years of neglect. Her supervisor, Mr. Harrison, gave her a quick tour of the hotel, explaining her duties. She would be responsible for overseeing the hotel's security systems, handling guest requests, and performing nightly checks. Mr. Harrison warned her about the hotel's quirks, including occasional disturbances and strange occurrences. He attributed them to the building's age and assured her that nothing out of the ordinary ever happened. As the night began, Jessica settled into the small office near the lobby, where she had access to security monitors and communication tools. She reviewed the hotel's guest registry and checked the security cameras, noting the dark corners of the building that seemed to harbor an unsettling aura. Despite the warnings, Jessica felt a sense of excitement and anticipation. She was ready for whatever the night might bring. Around midnight, as Jessica completed her routine checks, she noticed a flicker of movement on one of the security monitors. The camera in the hotel's old ballroom showed a shadowy figure moving across the floor. Jessica initially dismissed it as a trick of the light or a malfunction, but curiosity got the better of her. She decided to investigate, taking a flashlight and heading towards the ballroom. The hallways were quiet, the only sound being the echo of her footsteps against the marble floors. The ballroom was a grand space with high ceilings and ornate chandeliers, now covered in layers of dust and cobwebs. The once elegant room felt cold and unwelcoming, with the flickering beam of her flashlight casting eerie shadows on the walls. As she entered the ballroom, Jessica felt a sudden chill. Her breath misted in the air and a soft, almost imperceptible whisper seemed to fill the room. She scanned the space but found no sign of movement. The shadows seemed to dance and shift as if alive. She walked around the room, checking for any signs of tampering or disturbance, but found nothing unusual. Just as she was about to leave, she heard a faint sound, a soft, melodic piano tune. The music seemed to come from the grand piano in the corner of the room. Jessica approached the piano, her heart racing. The music continued, but the keys remained still, untouched. A sense of dread washed over her as the music abruptly stopped, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. The next day, Jessica decided to learn more about the hotel's history. She found an old guest book and newspaper clippings in the hotel's archive room. The Whispering Pines Hotel had been the site of numerous mysterious events over the years, including disappearances and unexplained phenomena. One particularly chilling article detailed a fire that had occurred in the 1930s, claiming the lives of several guests and staff. The article mentioned that the fire was caused by a malfunctioning chandelier, but there were rumors of foul play and supernatural involvement. The victims were said to be seen roaming the hotel's halls, seeking justice or perhaps release from their torment. As Jessica read through the accounts, she couldn't shake the feeling that the stories were more than just legends. The descriptions of the ghostly apparitions and strange occurrences matched the sensations she had felt the night before. Determined to uncover the truth, she decided to investigate further. That night, Jessica returned to the ballroom, armed with the knowledge she had gathered. She set up an old-fashioned tape recorder and a camera, hoping to capture any evidence of the supernatural presence. As the clock struck midnight, she began her vigil, watching the monitors and listening for any unusual sounds. Around 1 a.m., Jessica heard the sound of footsteps approaching from the ballroom. The footsteps were heavy and deliberate, echoing through the empty hallways. She checked the security monitors but saw nothing out of the ordinary. The recordings showed empty corridors, yet the sounds persisted. The temperature in the ballroom dropped sharply and the whispers returned, growing louder and more insistent. Jessica could make out fragmented phrases, words of distress and anger. The tape recorder picked up the whispers, but the footage showed no visible presence. The grand piano's lid began to tremble, and Jessica's flashlight flickered as if struggling against an unseen force. As she approached the piano, the music began again, this time playing a mournful and haunting melody. The keys moved on their own, striking random notes that seemed to form a coherent tune. Jessica's heart raced as she tried to make sense of the situation. She felt a cold hand brush against her cheek and heard a voice whispering, "Help us." Panicked, Jessica backed away from the piano, but the whispers grew more desperate. She realized that the spirits were trying to communicate, and their message was one of suffering and plea for assistance. She needed to understand their plight to help them find peace. The following night, Jessica focused on deciphering the messages from the spirits. She delved deeper into the hotel's history, discovering more about the victims of the fire and their stories. The The research revealed that the fire had claimed the lives of several prominent figures, including a wealthy couple and their daughter. The daughter, Emily, was known for her talent on the piano, and it was said that she had been practicing in the ballroom the night of the fire. Her family had perished in the blaze, and her spirit was believed to be trapped in the hotel, bound by grief and unfinished business. Jessica learned that Emily's spirit was linked to the grand piano, and the haunting melody was a manifestation of her sorrow. Determined to help, Jessica decided to perform a seance to communicate with Emily's spirit directly. She set up the seance in the ballroom, using the information she had gathered and the artifacts she had found to create a respectful and genuine connection. As the seance began, Jessica focused on the piano, hoping to reach out to Emily. She lit candles and placed them around the room, creating a circle of light. The temperature dropped once more, and the whispers grew louder, forming coherent sentences. Jessica spoke gently, asking Emily to share her story and express her needs. Emily's spirit responded through the whispers and the piano's music, revealing her anguish and the unfinished business that had bound her to the hotel. She spoke of her longing for her family and her desire for justice for the fire that had taken their lives. With the information she had gathered from the seance, Jessica sought to bring closure to Emily's spirit and the other victims. She contacted local historians and the families of the victims, sharing her findings and seeking their help in honoring the memory of those who had perished. A memorial service was held in the hotel, and a tribute was dedicated to the victims. The grand piano was restored and placed in a prominent position, symbolizing Emily's legacy and the love she had for music. The hotel management agreed to preserve the piano as a historical artifact, and a plaque was installed to commemorate the lives lost in the fire. Jessica continued her night shifts, but the atmosphere in the hotel had changed. The oppressive presence had lifted, and the whispers had faded. The hotel's guests reported a sense of peace and tranquility, and the haunting melodies were replaced by the soothing sounds of the restored piano. Jessica's experience at the Whispering Pines Hotel had been a journey of discovery and compassion. She had faced the unknown and uncovered the truth behind the hotel's dark past. Through her efforts, she had brought closure to restless spirits and helped the hotel find a new sense of purpose. The Whispering Pines Hotel stood as a testament to the enduring power of memory and the importance of acknowledging the past. For Jessica, the night shifts at the hotel became a reminder of the impact of understanding and empathy in the face of the supernatural. Liam had just started his shift at the old library, and as he stepped through the creaking wooden doors, he couldn't shake off the feeling that something was amiss. The library, with its towering bookshelves and antique decor, exuded a sense of ancient knowledge and forgotten secrets. The grand chandeliers, though dusty and dim, cast long shadows that seemed to whisper of the past. The library was a relic from another era, and Liam felt a mix of awe and apprehension as he navigated its labyrinthine corridors. His job was simple: monitor the security cameras, ensure the library remained locked, and respond to any alarms. The library was supposed to be a quiet, uneventful place at night. However, as he began his rounds, Liam couldn't help but notice the peculiarities of the building. The first night, he made his way through the grand hall, past the imposing statues and murals that decorated the walls. The old clock on the wall ticked methodically, its sound echoing through the empty spaces. As he checked each section, he noticed the oppressive silence that blanketed the library. The only sound was the occasional creak of the floorboards beneath his feet. The library's main reading room, with its rows of old wooden desks and high-backed chairs, seemed frozen in time. Dust motes floated in the weak beam of his flashlight, and the air was thick with the smell of old paper and ink. The feeling of being watched was hard to ignore, though Liam tried to brush it off as the result of the library's eerie ambiance. By midnight, the stillness was interrupted only by the occasional rustling of pages, which Liam attributed to the library's old ventilation system. He reviewed the security footage on the monitor, but everything appeared normal. Empty corridors and stationary bookshelves. The library's old-world charm was both fascinating and unnerving. As the nights progressed, Liam's unease grew. Objects seemed to move on their own, and the whispers he heard were more frequent. One night he returned to find a book lying open on a table in the reading room. It was a rare volume he had seen just hours earlier, neatly shelved in its place. The security footage showed no one entering the library, yet the book was inexplicably on the table, pages fluttering as if touched by an invisible hand. Liam's curiosity was piqued, but he remained skeptical, attributing the anomalies to his overactive imagination. On another occasion, while patrolling the library's labyrinthine stacks, he heard a soft, rhythmic thumping sound. He followed the noise to a section of the library that was rarely visited, only to find a book lying open on the floor, pages fluttering as though someone had recently been reading it. Liam checked the footage, but there was no sign of anyone entering or exiting the area. The library's elevators, though not in use, emitted strange noises at odd hours. One night, the elevator's bell dinged repeatedly, as if someone were calling it. When Liam investigated, he found nothing but an empty shaft and a sense of foreboding. These occurrences, though seemingly benign, began to weigh heavily on Liam's mind. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to these disturbances than mere coincidences. Determined to uncover the truth, Liam delved into the library's history. He discovered that the library had been built on the site of an old estate with a dark past. The estate had been home to a secret society known for its occult practices and rituals. The society's members had used the estate for dark ceremonies, which were said to involve ancient rites and sacrifices. Liam found old newspaper clippings and records detailing mysterious deaths and disappearances linked to the estate. The records described how the estate had been sold and repurposed as a library to distance itself from its grim past. However, the library's construction was said to have failed to fully purge the site of its dark energy. His research revealed that the library's founder had been a scholar with a fascination for the occult. The founder had reportedly conducted experiments with ancient texts and artifacts, which may have left a lingering influence on the library. As Liam continued his research, he came across references to a hidden passage in the library. The passage was rumored to lead to an underground chamber used by the secret society for their rituals. This discovery made Liam's blood run cold, as it seemed to confirm the library's sinister reputation. Liam's investigation took a darker turn when he encountered the entity more directly. During one of his patrols, he found himself drawn to the library's old reading room, where he felt an intense chill and heard a low, mournful wail. The air seemed to hum with an otherworldly energy. The entity began to manifest more clearly. Shadows moved independently of their sources, and Liam felt an oppressive presence following him. The temperature dropped dramatically, and he could see his breath forming in the cold air. One night, while checking the security footage, Liam saw a shadowy figure moving through the stacks. The figure seemed to be watching him, its eyes glowing with a malevolent light. The figure would disappear when Liam looked directly at it, only to reappear in a different part of the library. Liam's encounters with the entity grew more intense. He experienced sudden, unexplained sensations of being touched or grabbed. He felt as though invisible hands were reaching out to him, trying to pull him into the darkness. The library's atmosphere became increasingly hostile, with books flying off shelves and doors slamming shut on their own. Despite the growing fear, Liam remained determined to understand the entity's purpose. He knew that the library's dark history was intertwined with the entity's presence, and he needed to confront the source of the malevolence. Liam prepared for a final confrontation with the entity. He gathered protective symbols and rituals from various sources, including ancient texts and occult practices. He set up his equipment and prepared to perform a cleansing ritual in the library's old reading room, the epicenter of the disturbances. As the ritual began, the library seemed to come alive with dark energy. The entity manifested fully, its form shifting and writhing in the shadows. It was a grotesque, distorted figure, its face a mask of anguish and rage. The entity seemed to resist the ritual, its presence growing more aggressive. The ritual involved a series of complex procedures, including chanting, the use of sacred symbols, and offerings. Liam performed each step with precision, his voice steady despite the overwhelming fear. The entity fought against the ritual's effects, its form distorting and flickering as it tried to break free. The confrontation reached its peak as the entity unleashed a final powerful surge of energy. The library shook and the air crackled with electricity. Liam felt as though he was being pulled into the entity's realm, but he fought against it, channeling all his strength and willpower into the ritual. As Liam completed the final incantation, the entity let out a deafening scream. The dark energy dissipated, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. The library fell silent, and the strange occurrences ceased. Liam, exhausted and shaken, felt a profound sense of relief. In the aftermath of the confrontation, Liam left his job at the library, feeling both relief and exhaustion. The library's atmosphere had changed and the disturbances ceased. The old reading room, once the site of fear and dread, now felt calm and serene. The library continued to operate, but Liam's experience became a legend among paranormal enthusiasts. He gained recognition for his bravery and determination in confronting the unknown. His story was shared widely, and the library's dark past was discussed with new respect and caution. Liam pursued a career in paranormal research, using his experiences to help others understand and confront supernatural phenomena. He remained deeply affected by his time at the library, and the memories of the entity and the library's dark history stayed with him. The library's reputation as a site of dark energy became a cautionary tale, reminding people of the unseen forces that can linger in old and forgotten places. Liam's story became a testament to the strength required to confront the unknown and the importance of respecting the past. The library itself was transformed from a place of fear into a symbol of resilience and courage. The once haunted building now stood as a reminder of the power of knowledge and the enduring spirit of those who face the darkness. Emily, an aspiring historian, took a job as a night security guard at the old abandoned asylum on the outskirts of town. The asylum had been closed for decades, its once sterile halls now filled with decay and neglect. Emily's task was to ensure that no one entered the building during the night and to monitor the security system. The asylum's eerie appearance was compounded by its history. Rumors swirled about inhumane treatments and experiments conducted on patients. The long-forgotten building had become a place of fascination for urban explorers and paranormal enthusiasts. On her first night, Emily entered the building through the rusted gates and set up her security station. The old administrative offices with their dusty desks and peeling wallpaper seemed frozen in time. The sound of her footsteps echoed through the empty corridors, adding to the building's unsettling atmosphere. As Emily began her rounds, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. The asylum's oppressive silence was occasionally broken by creaks and groans from the building's infrastructure. Despite the unsettling atmosphere, she maintained a professional demeanor and focused on her tasks. The first few nights passed without incident, but Emily soon began to notice peculiar occurrences. The sound of footsteps seemed to follow her as she patrolled the darkened halls. Doors, once firmly shut, were found ajar, and objects seemed to shift positions on their own. One night, while checking the security footage, Emily noticed a strange anomaly. A shadowy figure appeared to move through the halls, only to disappear when she looked directly at it. She dismissed these incidents as the result of faulty equipment or her own imagination. However, the disturbances grew more pronounced. Emily began to hear whispers and cries emanating from the old patient wards. The sounds were faint but persistent, and they seemed to come from all directions. The temperature in certain areas of the asylum would drop suddenly, and an oppressive, cold draft would sweep through the hallways. Despite her growing unease, Emily continued her shifts, determined to uncover the truth behind the asylum's disturbances. She started to research the asylum's history, uncovering tales of mistreatment and tragedy that had occurred within its walls. Emily's research revealed that the asylum had been the site of unethical experiments and brutal treatments. The building had been home to a controversial psychiatric program that involved lobotomies, electroshock therapy, and other inhumane practices. She discovered that the asylum's founder, Dr. Thomas Everly, had been a prominent but controversial figure in psychiatry. His methods were considered radical and cruel by modern standards, and many patients had suffered greatly under his care. Emily found old records and personal journals that detailed the horrifying conditions endured by the asylum's patients. The more she learned, the more she felt a growing sense of empathy and sorrow for those who had suffered. One journal entry described a secret room hidden within the asylum where Dr. Everly conducted his most disturbing experiments. The entry mentioned the room's location and hinted at the existence of a hidden passage that led to it. Determined to uncover the truth, Emily searched for the hidden room mentioned in the journal. She found the hidden passage, concealed behind a false wall in one of the patient wards. The passage was narrow and winding, leading her deeper into the asylum's dark, forgotten corners. The hidden room was filled with unsettling remnants of the asylum's past. Old medical instruments, faded patient records, and disturbing photographs. The walls were adorned with cryptic symbols and faded messages written in what appeared to be blood. Emily's exploration of the room was interrupted by a sudden, eerie sound. A loud bang, followed by the faint sound of laughter. The temperature dropped, and Emily felt a cold, clammy presence close behind her. She quickly retreated from the room, feeling an overwhelming sense of dread. Despite her fear, Emily returned to the hidden room several times, documenting her findings and trying to piece together the asylum's dark history. She discovered that Dr. Everly had performed experiments aimed at manipulating and controlling the human mind, seeking to harness supernatural abilities. The entity associated with the asylum's dark history began to manifest more aggressively. Emily experienced terrifying encounters with ghostly figures and malevolent presences. The once familiar halls of the asylum became a labyrinth of terror, with shadows darting in the corners of her vision and whispers growing louder. One night, Emily encountered a ghostly figure of a woman, dressed in a tattered hospital gown. The figure's face was obscured, but its mournful cries filled the air. The entity reached out to Emily, its eyes glowing with a haunting sadness. The asylum's atmosphere became increasingly oppressive. Objects flew off shelves, doors slammed shut, and the temperature plummeted. Emily felt as though she was being pulled into the darkness, and the entity's presence grew more malevolent. Determined to end the disturbances, Emily researched methods of banishing spirits and cleansing haunted locations. She learned about rituals and protective symbols that could be used to confront and dispel malevolent entities. Emily prepared for a final confrontation with the entity. She gathered the necessary materials for a cleansing ritual and set up her equipment in the asylum's central hall, where the entity's presence was strongest. The ritual involved a series of complex procedures, including the use of protective symbols, chanting, and offerings. As Emily performed the ritual, the asylum's atmosphere became increasingly hostile. The entity manifested fully, its form shifting between grotesque and spectral. The final confrontation was intense and harrowing. Emily felt as though she was fighting against an invisible force, her strength and willpower tested to their limits. The entity resisted the ritual, its presence growing more aggressive as it fought against the cleansing. The library shook, and the air crackled with energy as the entity's influence began to wane. Emily channeled all her fear and determination into the ritual, completing the final incantation with a surge of energy. The entity let out a deafening scream, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. After the confrontation, the asylum's atmosphere changed significantly. The oppressive energy lifted, and the strange occurrences ceased. Emily felt a profound sense of relief and exhaustion as she left the building for the last time. The asylum remained closed, and its dark history became a cautionary tale. Emily's experience was shared among paranormal enthusiasts and researchers, and she gained recognition for her bravery in facing the unknown. Emily continued her work as a historian, using her experience to educate others about the supernatural and the importance of understanding and respecting the past. The asylum's story served as a reminder of the dark forces that can linger long after the physical structures have disappeared. David, a former city planner, purchased an old inn on the edge of town with plans to restore it to its former glory. The inn, known for its quaint charm and historic significance, had been closed for years and was rumored to be haunted. As David began the restoration work, he was struck by the inn's beauty and history. The grand foyer, with its ornate fireplace and antique furnishings, spoke of a bygone era. The old guest rooms, though dusty and worn, held a certain charm that fascinated David. Despite the inn's historical allure, David couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The workers reported strange noises and unexplained occurrences during the renovation, such as lights flickering and tools being misplaced. David dismissed these reports as the result of old wiring and the natural wear and tear of the building. However, as he settled into the inn and began managing it, he couldn't ignore the growing sense of unease that seemed to pervade the premises. David's first few nights at the inn were uneventful, but he soon began to experience unsettling occurrences. The sound of footsteps echoed through the empty halls, and he found objects out of place despite being the only one in the building. One night, David was woken by the sound of a door slamming shut. He investigated and found nothing amiss, but the sense of being watched lingered. The inn's old elevator creaked and groaned, even though it was not in use. David's guests also reported strange experiences. Some claimed to have seen ghostly figures in their rooms, while others heard unexplained whispers and footsteps. The guests' descriptions matched the inn's unsettling reputation, adding to David's growing sense of dread. Determined to uncover the truth, David began researching the inn's history. He discovered that the inn had been the site of several tragic events, including the mysterious deaths of previous owners and guests. David's research revealed that the inn had a dark and troubled past. It was originally built in the late 1800s by a wealthy family, the Harringtons, who had a reputation for hosting lavish parties and influential guests. However, the inn's history took a dark turn when a series of unexplained deaths occurred. The Harrington family's daughter, Elizabeth, had vanished mysteriously, and several guests had reported seeing her ghostly figure. The inn's subsequent owners had reported strange occurrences and inexplicable events. The inn had become a place of mystery and speculation, with many believing that it was haunted by the spirits of those who had died there. David discovered that the inn had been closed and abandoned several times, each time following a series of tragic events or unexplained phenomena. The stories of the inn's haunted past became a local legend, and the building was eventually left to decay. As David continued his investigation, he began to experience more direct encounters with the supernatural. He saw ghostly figures in the inn's mirrors and heard eerie whispers in the darkened hallways. One night, while exploring the inn's attic, David found a trunk filled with old photographs and personal belongings. The trunk belonged to Elizabeth Harrington, and it contained letters, diaries, and a collection of old photographs. Among the items was a photograph of Elizabeth with a mysterious figure standing behind her. The figure's face was obscured, but its presence was unmistakable. David felt a chill as he realized that the figure might be connected to the inn's dark history. The encounters with the supernatural grew more intense. David felt cold spots and sudden drafts, and the inn's atmosphere became increasingly oppressive. He was haunted by the vision of Elizabeth's ghostly figure, her mournful expression a constant reminder of the inn's tragic past. Determined to uncover the truth behind the hauntings, David sought the help of paranormal experts and historians. He conducted interviews with local residents and researched the inn's history in greater detail. The experts revealed that Elizabeth's disappearance was linked to a series of occult rituals and secret societies that had operated in the area. The rituals were believed to involve summoning and controlling spirits, and it was suspected that Elizabeth had been a victim of these dark practices. David learned that the inn had been used as a meeting place for these secret societies, and that the spirits of those involved had been trapped in the building. The rituals had left a lingering presence, and the spirits were said to be seeking release. Armed with this knowledge, David decided to conduct a cleansing ritual to free the spirits and put an end to the hauntings. He prepared for the ritual by gathering the necessary materials and setting up a protective circle in the inn's grand foyer. The ritual was a complex and intense process. David followed the instructions carefully, using protective symbols, chanting, and offerings to address the spirits and release them from their confinement. As David performed the ritual, the inn's atmosphere became charged with energy. The temperature dropped, and the ghostly figures became more visible. Elizabeth's spirit appeared, her expression one of both sorrow and hope. The ritual was challenging and demanded all of David's focus and strength. The spirits resisted, their presence growing more agitated as the ritual progressed. David could feel their desperation and fear, and he worked tirelessly to complete the ritual. The final moments of the ritual were dramatic and powerful. The inn shook, and a blinding light filled the grand foyer. David felt a surge of energy as the spirits were finally released from their torment. Elizabeth's ghostly figure smiled at David before fading away. With the ritual complete, the inn's atmosphere changed dramatically. The oppressive energy lifted and the hauntings ceased. David felt a deep sense of relief and accomplishment as he looked around the now peaceful inn. The inn reopened to the public, and its reputation as a haunted place became a part of its history. David continued to manage the inn, using his experience to share the story of its past and the successful cleansing ritual. The inn became a popular destination, attracting visitors interested in its history and the tale of the haunting. David's story of bravery and perseverance inspired others, and he became known for his work in addressing supernatural phenomena. The inn's dark past was transformed into a story of redemption and hope. David's efforts had freed the spirits and allowed the inn to find peace, making it a symbol of resilience and new beginnings. Sarah, a journalist, arrived at the remote village of Blackwood to investigate reports of strange occurrences and disappearances. The village was known for its isolation and mysterious reputation, with few outsiders daring to venture there. As Sarah entered Blackwood, she was struck by its eerie beauty. The village was nestled in a dense forest, with old, crumbling houses and overgrown streets. The villagers were reserved and suspicious, their expressions conveying a sense of unease. Sarah set up her base in the village inn, a rundown establishment with a history as dark as the village itself. The innkeeper, an elderly man named Harold, was reluctant to share information, but hinted at the village's cursed past. Sarah began her investigation by speaking with the villagers and exploring the area. She discovered that the village had a history of unexplained disappearances and bizarre occurrences, with many residents attributing these events to a curse placed on the village. Sarah's research revealed that Blackwood had a dark history dating back to the 18th century. The village was founded by a group of settlers who had been exiled from their homeland due to their involvement in forbidden practices and occult rituals. The settlers had brought their dark practices with them to Blackwood, and it was believed that they had summoned malevolent spirits and placed a curse on the village. The curse was said to cause misfortune and suffering, with its effects becoming more pronounced over time. Sarah found records of mysterious deaths and disappearances linked to the village's dark past. The curse was believed to have caused the villagers to suffer from visions, madness, and unexplained phenomena. The village's isolation and the reluctance of its residents to discuss the curse only added to the sense of mystery and foreboding. Sarah felt a growing sense of unease as she delved deeper into the village's history. As Sarah continued her investigation, she began to experience unsettling occurrences. She saw ghostly figures in the village's fog-covered streets and heard eerie whispers in the night. One night, Sarah was woken by a chilling scream. She found herself alone in her room, with the inn's atmosphere thick with an oppressive energy. The temperature dropped suddenly, and Sarah felt an unseen presence in the room. The village's residents reported strange experiences as well. They spoke of visions and dreams involving dark figures and malevolent spirits. Some claimed to have seen their deceased loved ones wandering the village, their faces twisted in anguish. Sarah's encounters with the supernatural grew more intense. She felt a growing sense of dread and saw shadows moving independently of their sources. The village's atmosphere became increasingly oppressive, and Sarah felt as though she was being watched. Sarah's research led her to discover details about a forbidden ritual performed by the original settlers. The ritual was intended to summon and control spirits, but it had gone horribly wrong, resulting in the curse placed on the village. The ritual involved a series of dark practices and ceremonies, including the use of ancient symbols and sacrifices. The settlers had believed that by controlling the spirits, they could harness their power and protect the village. However, the ritual had backfired, and the spirits had become vengeful. The curse had taken hold. causing the village to suffer from misfortune and supernatural disturbances. The spirits had become trapped in the village, their malevolent influence growing over time. Sarah found a detailed account of the ritual and learned that the key to lifting the curse was to perform a counter-ritual. The counter-ritual required specific ingredients and a series of precise steps to appease the spirits and break the curse. Determined to break the curse, Sarah gathered the necessary materials for the counter-ritual. She sought the help of local historians and occult experts to ensure that she had everything she needed. The counter-ritual involved gathering rare ingredients, such as herbs and symbols, and performing a series of complex procedures. Sarah prepared for the ritual by setting up a protected space in the village's old chapel, a place with a history of strange occurrences. The villagers, initially skeptical, began to support Sarah's efforts. They provided her with additional information and resources, revealing their own experiences with the curse. Their cooperation was crucial in helping Sarah prepare for the ritual. As the night of the ritual approached, Sarah felt a growing sense of apprehension. The village's atmosphere became charged with tension, and the supernatural disturbances increased. Sarah knew that the success of the ritual was critical to ending the curse and freeing the village from its torment. The ritual began as Sarah performed the necessary steps with precision and care. The village's old chapel, filled with ancient symbols and protective circles, became the focal point of the counter-ritual. The ritual was intense and demanding, requiring Sarah to maintain focus and strength as she chanted and performed the ceremonies. The spirits manifested more strongly, their presence becoming palpable as they resisted the ritual's effects. The chapel shook and the air crackled with energy as Sarah worked to appease the spirits. The entities appeared as shadowy figures, their forms shifting and flickering in the dim light. The final moments of the ritual were dramatic and charged with tension. Sarah completed the last incantation, and a blinding light filled the chapel. The spirits' cries of anguish grew louder before suddenly ceasing, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. With the ritual complete, the curse on Blackwood was broken. The village's atmosphere changed and the supernatural disturbances ceased. The villagers felt a sense of relief and hope as the oppressive energy lifted. Sarah's investigation and the successful ritual were celebrated by the villagers. The village began to recover from its long-standing torment, and the residents started to rebuild their lives with renewed optimism. Blackwood's reputation as a cursed place faded, and the village began to attract visitors interested in its history and the story of the curse. Sarah's work became a testament to courage and perseverance, and she continued to share the story of Blackwood's redemption. The village's dark past was transformed into a story of recovery and hope. The curse was lifted, and Blackwood became a symbol of resilience and renewal. Emily, a historian, was drawn to Crescent Hill, an old estate known for its dark history and mysterious reputation. The estate had been abandoned for decades, and its name was synonymous with ghostly legends and supernatural occurrences. Upon arrival, Emily was struck by the estate's imposing presence. The grand but dilapidated mansion stood atop a hill, surrounded by overgrown gardens and twisted trees. The atmosphere was heavy with a sense of foreboding, and the estate's dark history was palpable. Emily began her investigation by exploring the estate's rooms and grounds. She discovered old documents and artifacts that hinted at the estate's tragic past. The estate had been the site of a series of unexplained deaths and disappearances, and rumors of a phantom haunting the property were widespread. Emily's research revealed the legend of the Phantom of Crescent Hill. The phantom was said to be the spirit of a young woman named Isabella, who had died under mysterious circumstances. Isabella had been the daughter of the estate's original owner, a wealthy and influential man. Her death was shrouded in secrecy, with conflicting accounts of how she had died. Some said she had been murdered, while others believed she had taken her own life. The phantom was believed to be restless and vengeful, seeking to avenge her untimely death. Reports of ghostly apparitions, eerie sounds, and inexplicable phenomena had plagued the estate for years, and many believed that Isabella's spirit was trapped in the mansion. Emily found accounts of the estate's history and the events surrounding Isabella's death. The stories painted a picture of a tragic and haunted past, with the phantom's presence a constant reminder of the estate's dark history. As Emily delved deeper into the estate's history, she began to experience unsettling encounters. She heard strange noises in the empty rooms and saw shadowy figures moving in the corners of her vision. One night, while exploring the mansion's attic, Emily came across a trunk filled with old letters and personal items. Among the items was a diary belonging to Isabella. The diary revealed details about Isabella's life, her relationships, and her growing sense of dread as she felt something dark approaching. Emily's encounters with the phantom grew more intense. She saw Isabella's ghostly figure in the mirrors and felt a chilling presence in the mansion's hallways. The atmosphere in the estate became increasingly oppressive, and Emily felt a growing sense of fear and anxiety. Determined to uncover the truth behind Isabella's death and the phantom's presence, Emily conducted a thorough investigation. She interviewed former employees of the estate and consulted historical records to piece together the events leading up to Isabella's death. Emily discovered that Isabella's death had been the result of a tragic accident. She had fallen from a balcony during a party, and her death had been covered up to protect the family's reputation. The estate's owner had been involved in illicit activities, and Isabella's death was part of a larger pattern of secrecy and deception. Emily's investigation revealed that the phantom's presence was tied to the unresolved mystery of Isabella's death. The spirit was trapped in the estate, unable to find peace due to the lies and concealment surrounding her tragic end. To help Isabella find peace, Emily decided to confront the phantom and acknowledge the truth of her death. She held a seance in the mansion's grand hall, using the diary and other artifacts to connect with Isabella's spirit. During the seance, Emily communicated with Isabella's ghost, offering solace and acknowledging the pain and injustice she had endured. Isabella's spirit appeared, her figure both ethereal and sorrowful. The seance was emotionally charged, with Isabella's presence growing more intense as Emily spoke. The atmosphere in the grand hall was heavy with a sense of both sorrow and relief. Isabella's spirit expressed her anguish and the desire for recognition and justice. The seance brought a sense of closure to the estate. Isabella's spirit, having been acknowledged and honored, began to fade from the mansion. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, and the estate felt lighter and more peaceful. Emily's investigation and the resolution of Isabella's story were celebrated. The estate was restored and opened to the public, with the tale of the Phantom of Crescent Hill becoming a part of its history. The estate's dark past was transformed into a story of redemption and recognition. Emily's work became a testament to her dedication and empathy, and she continued to share Isabella's story as a reminder of the importance of acknowledging and addressing the past. With Isabella's spirit finally at peace, Crescent Hill became a symbol of transformation and healing. The estate, once a place of darkness and mystery, was now a beacon of hope and reconciliation. The estate's story attracted visitors interested in its history and the legend of the Phantom of Crescent Hill. Emily continued to share her findings, emphasizing the importance of uncovering the truth and honoring those who had suffered. Crescent Hill's legacy became one of resilience and redemption. The estate's dark past was no longer a source of fear, but a reminder of the power of truth and the impact of addressing unresolved pain. Emily's work on Crescent Hill inspired others to seek out and confront their own pasts, creating a ripple effect of healing and understanding. The estate stood as a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit and the importance of facing the shadows to find the light. Jack, a young journalist, was drawn to the enigmatic mansion on the outskirts of town. Known for its strange occurrences and whispered legends, the mansion had become a subject of fascination and fear among locals. The mansion was an imposing structure, with dark ivy-covered walls and overgrown gardens. Its windows were boarded up, and the air around it seemed to hum with an otherworldly energy. Jack felt a mix of excitement and apprehension as he approached the mansion. Jack began his investigation by exploring the mansion's exterior and grounds. He discovered that the mansion had been abandoned for decades, and its history was shrouded in mystery. Locals spoke of eerie whispers and shadowy figures seen through the mansion's windows, fueling the legend of the Whispering Shadows. Jack's research revealed that the mansion had been built in the late 19th century by a wealthy family who had vanished under mysterious circumstances. The family's disappearance was never explained, and the mansion had been left to decay. The legends spoke of shadowy figures and disembodied whispers that haunted the mansion. The whispers were believed to be the voices of the family members who had disappeared, trapped in the mansion and seeking to communicate with the living. Jack found accounts of strange occurrences and supernatural phenomena associated with the mansion. The whispers were said to be heard most strongly at night, and some claimed that the shadows in the mansion moved independently, as if guided by an unseen force. As Jack continued his investigation, he began to experience the whispers firsthand. He heard faint, indistinguishable voices calling out to him in the darkened rooms of the mansion. The whispers grew louder and more insistent, as if urging him to uncover the truth. One night, Jack was drawn to the mansion's basement where he found old, dusty items and remnants of the family's past. The whispers were particularly strong in the basement, and Jack felt a chilling presence as he explored the dark space. The whispers seemed to guide Jack to a hidden compartment in the basement. Inside, he found a collection of old letters, photographs, and a journal belonging to the family's daughter, Margaret. The journal revealed details about the family's life and their growing sense of dread as they experienced the whispers and shadows. Jack's investigation into the family's history revealed that the mansion had been the site of a series of tragic events. The family had been plagued by unexplained phenomena and had become increasingly isolated and fearful. The journal revealed that Margaret had been the most affected by the supernatural occurrences. She wrote about seeing shadowy figures and hearing whispers that seemed to come from within the mansion's walls. The whispers had driven the family to the brink of madness, and their disappearance was a result of the terror they experienced. Jack discovered that the mansion had been cursed, and the shadows and whispers were manifestations of the curse's malevolent influence. The family's disappearance was part of a larger pattern of tragedy and suffering associated with the mansion's dark past. To understand the nature of the curse and the role of the whispers, Jack decided to confront the shadows in the mansion. He conducted a seance in the mansion's main hall, using the journal and other artifacts to connect with the spirits of the family. During the seance, Jack communicated with the spirits, offering them a chance to share their stories and find closure. The whispers became more coherent, and the shadows in the mansion seemed to take on a more defined form. The seance revealed that the shadows were the remnants of the family's fear and anguish. The curse had trapped their spirits in the mansion, and the whispers were their way of reaching out for help and understanding. With the truth about the curse and the family's fate revealed, Jack sought to break the curse and release the trapped spirits. He performed a ritual to cleanse the mansion and free the spirits from their torment. The ritual involved invoking protective energies and offering a heartfelt apology to the spirits for the suffering they had endured. As Jack completed the ritual, the whispers and shadows began to dissipate, and the atmosphere in the mansion grew lighter. The mansion, once a place of fear and darkness, began to feel more peaceful. The oppressive energy that had haunted the estate for years was lifted, and the whispers ceased. Following the ritual, the mansion underwent a transformation. The once decaying structure was restored, and the grounds were cleaned and maintained. The whispers and shadows that had plagued the mansion were gone, and the estate took on a new sense of calm. Jack's investigation and the breaking of the curse became a part of the mansion's history. The estate was reopened to the public, and its story was shared as a reminder of the power of confronting and addressing the past. The mansion's legacy was transformed from one of fear and mystery to one of healing and renewal. The story of the Whispering Shadows became a symbol of the importance of seeking the truth and finding closure. The mansion's transformation into a place of peace and renewal attracted visitors interested in its history and the legend of the Whispering Shadows. Jack continued to share the story of the mansion, emphasizing the importance of understanding and addressing the past. The legacy of the mansion became a reminder of the impact of unresolved pain and the power of facing one's fears. The Whispering Shadows story inspired others to confront their own shadows and seek closure. Jack's work on the mansion became a testament to his dedication and courage. The mansion stood as a symbol of hope and redemption, with its dark past now serving as a reminder of the strength of the human spirit and the importance of finding peace. Tom and his friends decided to spend a weekend in a remote cabin deep in the forest. The cabin, which belonged to Tom's family, was secluded and rustic, offering the perfect escape from the hustle and bustle of city life. As they arrived at the cabin, they were immediately struck by its eerie charm. The surrounding forest was dense and dark, and the cabin seemed to have a mysterious aura. Tom's friends, Lisa and Mark, were excited about the adventure, but Tom couldn't shake a sense of unease. The first night was peaceful and they enjoyed a campfire and storytelling. But as darkness fell, Tom began to notice strange sounds coming from the forest. Faint whispers and footsteps that seemed to follow them as they moved around the cabin. Tom tried to dismiss it as the forest's natural sounds, but the sense of being watched grew stronger. He decided to investigate, venturing into the woods alone. The forest was unnaturally quiet, and Tom felt a growing sense of dread. The next morning, Tom's friends noticed that some of their supplies had gone missing. Tom mentioned his eerie experience in the forest, and his friends laughed it off as his imagination. But as the day progressed, they began to experience strange occurrences of their own. Lisa reported seeing shadowy figures moving outside the cabin, while Mark heard disembodied voices in the middle of the night. The atmosphere grew tense as the friends struggled to understand the source of the disturbances. Tom decided to investigate further, searching the cabin for any clues. He found an old journal hidden in a dusty corner of the attic. The journal belonged to a previous occupant of the cabin, and its entries detailed a series of unsettling events: disappearances, strange noises, and encounters with dark figures in the forest. The journal hinted at a dark secret buried in the cabin's history, and Tom felt a growing sense of dread. He shared his findings with his friends, and they agreed to spend the rest of the weekend trying to uncover the truth. Tom and his friends delved into the cabin's history, researching old records and talking to locals. They discovered that the cabin had once belonged to a reclusive hermit who had vanished under mysterious circumstances. The hermit was rumored to have practiced dark rituals and communicated with malevolent entities from the forest. According to local legend, the cabin was built on an ancient burial ground, and the hermit's rituals had angered the spirits of the land. As Tom and his friends continued their investigation, they uncovered evidence of strange occurrences and rituals performed in the forest surrounding the cabin. The more they learned, the more they realized that the cabin was a focal point for supernatural activity. Determined to uncover the truth, Tom and his friends decided to perform their own investigation of the forest at night. They set up cameras and recording devices to capture any paranormal activity. As night fell, the forest came alive with strange noises and eerie lights. Tom and his friends followed the sounds to an old abandoned cabin deep in the woods. The cabin was decrepit and covered in strange symbols, and the air was thick with an oppressive energy. Inside, they found remnants of old rituals, candles, symbols, and dark stains on the floor. It was clear that the cabin had been used for summoning dark forces. The group felt an overwhelming sense of fear as they realized they were not alone. Suddenly, the atmosphere grew colder, and shadowy figures emerged from the darkness. The friends were engulfed in a terrifying encounter with the malevolent entities, struggling to escape the cabin and the forest's grasp. The friends managed to escape the forest and return to the main cabin, but the experience left them shaken. They knew they had to find a way to protect themselves from the malevolent forces they had encountered. Tom and his friends sought help from experts in paranormal phenomena and occult practices. They performed a series of rituals and protections to ward off the dark entities and cleanse the cabin of its negative energy. The process was intense and required the group to confront their deepest fears. The rituals involved banishing the malevolent entities and creating protective barriers around the cabin and the forest. Despite their efforts, the experience had left a lasting impact on Tom and his friends. They decided to leave the cabin behind, knowing that the forest's dark secrets would always remain a part of their memories. Years later, Tom learned that the cabin had been abandoned and left to decay. The forest had reclaimed it, and the stories of strange occurrences and disappearances continued to circulate among locals. Tom and his friends knew that their encounter with the dark forces had left a mark on them. They had experienced firsthand the malevolent presence that haunted the cabin and the forest. Despite their attempts to cleanse and protect themselves, the cabin's dark legacy endured. Tom hoped that by sharing their story, they could warn others about the dangers of the forest and the cabin's dark history. The experience had changed them forever, and they carried the memory of their terrifying encounter with them for the rest of their lives. Ravenwood Asylum was a towering Gothic structure that had loomed over the small town of Westbrook for over a century. Its stone walls, covered in creeping ivy and moss, spoke of a dark past that was whispered about, but rarely spoken of openly. Once a place where the mentally ill were treated with outdated and often brutal methods, the asylum had been shut down decades ago after a series of scandals and mysterious disappearances. The building had remained abandoned ever since, becoming a focal point for ghost hunters and thrill seekers. Ella Harper, a paranormal investigator known for her meticulous research and fearless approach, decided to investigate Ravenwood Asylum. The asylum's history was tainted with tales of cruelty, inhumane experiments, and unexplained phenomena. The stories of the tormented souls who had once been patients there intrigued Ella, and she aimed to uncover the truth behind the asylum's haunted reputation. As Ella approached the asylum, the air grew colder, and an unsettling silence seemed to envelop the area. The building's decaying grandeur was both captivating and horrifying, with broken windows, rusting gates, and overgrown pathways. Ella felt an eerie sense of anticipation and dread as she prepared to enter the asylum, her equipment ready to capture whatever might be lurking within. Once inside Ravenwood Asylum, Ella began her investigation by exploring the various sections of the building. The asylum was a labyrinth of dimly lit hallways, decrepit rooms, and abandoned medical equipment. The once pristine floors were now covered in layers of dust and debris, and the air was thick with an oppressive atmosphere. Ella discovered records and documents that detailed the asylum's dark history. The asylum had been notorious for its harsh treatments, including electroshock therapy, lobotomies, and other inhumane practices. The records revealed a series of experiments conducted on patients without their consent, leading to numerous deaths and disappearances. One particular case stood out: a young woman named Lydia, who had been admitted to the asylum after a severe mental breakdown. Lydia's story was one of torment and suffering, and her case had become a symbol of the asylum's cruelty. The records indicated that Lydia had vanished under mysterious circumstances, and her disappearance had never been solved. Ella also found personal diaries and letters from former staff members, detailing their guilt and remorse over the treatment of patients. The accounts painted a picture of a place that had once been a sanctuary, but had become a nightmarish environment of fear and suffering. As night fell, Ella set up her equipment and began documenting the supernatural activity in the asylum. The air grew colder, and an unsettling presence seemed to linger in the shadows. Ella's audio recordings picked up strange whispers and disembodied voices, and her cameras captured fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures. Ella's EMF, electromagnetic field meter, detected spikes of activity in certain areas of the asylum. One of the most active locations was the old treatment room, where patients had been subjected to the harshest procedures. The room felt particularly oppressive, and Ella experienced a series of paranormal phenomena, including sudden temperature drops and unexplained noises. In the old operating theater, Ella encountered an apparition she could only describe as a dark, indistinct figure. The figure seemed to watch her with an intense, sorrowful gaze. Ella's attempts to communicate with the spirit were met with eerie silence, and the sense of anguish in the room was palpable. The more Ella explored, the more she felt the weight of the asylum's dark history pressing down on her. The spirits of the patients and staff seemed to be reaching out, their suffering echoing through the empty halls. As Ella delved deeper into the asylum, the supernatural activity intensified. The whispers grew louder, and the shadows seemed to take on more defined shapes. The once cold air became icy, and Ella's equipment experienced frequent malfunctions. The sense of dread and unease was overwhelming. Ella encountered several apparitions, each with a different story of suffering. One spirit was that of a young girl who had been a patient at the asylum. Her appearance was marked by an expression of terror, and she seemed to be reliving her final moments. Another spirit was that of an elderly man who appeared to be searching for something or someone. Ella's investigation revealed that the spirits were not just lingering, but were trapped, their souls unable to find peace due to the trauma they had endured. The apparitions seemed to be trying to convey their stories, their distress evident in their movements and expressions. In the asylum's basement, Ella discovered a hidden chamber with remnants of experimental equipment. The chamber felt charged with a malevolent energy, and Ella sensed that this was a focal point of the asylum's dark past. The chamber was the site of many of the asylum's most inhumane practices, and the spirits trapped here were particularly restless. Determined to help the trapped spirits find peace, Ella decided to perform a ritual to release them from their torment. She researched various methods of spirit communication and cleansing, drawing from her knowledge of paranormal practices and historical accounts of similar cases. Ella prepared a ritual in the old chapel of the asylum, which had once been a place of solace but had become tainted by the asylum's dark history. The ritual involved invoking protective energies, offering prayers, and using symbols and artifacts to create a connection with the spirits. Ella hoped to provide a sense of closure and release for the tormented souls. During the ritual, Ella encountered intense supernatural activity. The temperature dropped sharply, and the whispers became a cacophony of voices pleading for release. The shadows in the chapel grew more defined, and Ella felt a powerful presence trying to resist the ritual. As she performed the ritual, Ella spoke directly to the spirits, acknowledging their suffering and offering them a chance to move on. The atmosphere in the chapel was charged with energy, and Ella could feel the spirit's presence shifting and evolving. As the ritual neared its end, the oppressive energy in the asylum began to lift. The whispers grew fainter, and the shadows slowly dissipated. The temperature returned to normal, and the sense of dread that had pervaded the asylum eased. Ella felt a profound sense of relief as the spirits seemed to find peace. The apparitions that had haunted the asylum appeared to be moving on, their torment alleviated by the ritual. The atmosphere in the asylum, once heavy with sorrow and fear, began to feel lighter and more serene. The next morning, Ella conducted a final walkthrough of the asylum, noting the changes in the building's energy. The oppressive atmosphere was gone, replaced by a sense of calm and quiet. The asylum's haunting had transformed from one of terror to one of resolution and peace. Ella's investigation and the successful ritual were met with a sense of accomplishment. Ravenwood Asylum's dark history had been addressed, and the spirits that had once lingered in torment had found release. The asylum, once a place of fear and suffering, could now begin a new chapter. Ravenwood Asylum's transformation became a symbol of hope and redemption. The story of Ella's investigation and the ritual was shared as a testament to the power of confronting and addressing the dark aspects of history. The asylum's past was no longer a source of terror, but a reminder of the importance of seeking closure and healing. The building was restored and repurposed as a historical site and museum, dedicated to preserving the memory of those who had suffered and highlighting the importance of humane treatment in mental health care. Visitors came to learn about the asylum's history and the efforts to address its haunting. Ella continued to share her experience and the story of Ravenwood Asylum, emphasizing the significance of understanding and addressing the past. The asylum's legacy became one of resilience and transformation, with its dark history serving as a reminder of the enduring strength of the human spirit. The once haunted asylum now stood as a beacon of hope, its story inspiring others to confront their own challenges and seek peace. Ravenwood Asylum's transformation was a testament to the power of redemption and the importance of addressing the shadows of the past. In the years following the ritual, Ravenwood Asylum became a symbol of transformation and healing. The building's dark past was no longer a source of fear, but a reminder of the power of confronting and addressing unresolved issues. The asylum story was shared with visitors and researchers, highlighting the importance of understanding and learning from history. Ella's work on Ravenwood Asylum was recognized as a significant contribution to the field of paranormal investigation. Her dedication to uncovering the truth and helping the spirits find peace was celebrated, and her story inspired others to approach their own investigations with compassion and integrity. The asylum's legacy continued to evolve, with its history and transformation serving as a powerful reminder of the strength of the human spirit and the importance of addressing the shadows of the past. Ravenwood Asylum stood as a beacon of hope and redemption, its haunted history now serving as a testament to the enduring power of healing and resolution. The echoes of Ravenwood's past became a symbol of resilience, and the asylum's story inspired others to seek out their own paths to peace and redemption. The building, once a place of torment, had found its place in history as a reminder of the transformative power of understanding and confronting the darkness within.